That surveillance video really was a key part of the investigation. Once we started airing it, investigators took a second look at the troopers' claims and compared them to what they saw in the video.
Were you hoping that one of those agencies or an independent law office would conduct that internal investigation? Or if not, what were you hoping that they would do?
That lack of help means lack of space for veterans who really need this care in our state. The latest numbers from the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs show that out of all the state-funded nursing homes, none of them have a 100% occupancy rate. In fact, this one in Port Charlotte actually has the lowest number in the state, at just 57% of the beds occupied by veterans. The number of cases that LCSO investigated jumped between 2020 and 2021. And as of this year, the newly formed Animal Cruelty Task Force has investigated more than 150 cases. We also reached out to the Lee County Domestic Animal Services. Now, they did confiscate more animals in cruelty cases in 2021 versus 2020, but the number of cases and calls for animal neglect has actually gone down for them over time.
Do you feel that 3-year mark was too optimistic?
NBC2 investigator Ashley Graham started digging into this months ago. Ashley, I understand there are still more than 1,000 homes to go?
Yes, that's accurate today. I asked the DEO in January how many homes were still left statewide. At that time, it was just over 2,000 across the state. Now they have about 1,100 left, and more than 300 of those damaged homes are here in Southwest Florida. And right now we're taking you inside one of those waiting homes where one woman has been waiting storm after storm with no progress.
I moved here in 2010.
This Golden Gate Estate house was artist Mary Lundberg's fresh start.
I had just finished cancer treatment, and this was the house. This was the project that I was jumping into to get my life back. Things were just really down. And so I just kind of was like, I'm going to go as far south as I can. As soon as the doctors say you can go, I'm going.
Bit by bit, she worked to make it a home, filling it with her art and her memories. In 2017, Hurricane Irma stopped that progress. Irma ripped through Southwest Florida 5 years ago. Lundberg says a tree fell onto her septic system and it backed up into her house. The storm damaged her roof and windows. Her insurance wouldn't cover the full cost to repair it. FEMA denied her. Then her last hope, Rebuild Florida and their statewide program that they designed to help homeowners just like her with nowhere to turn after a storm.
And the whole time I'm elated, like, I can't believe they're going to help me. This is amazing.
The plan is to tear down her house and build her a new one. She waited and waited and still.
Oh man, 5 years. I'm still waiting.
The holes in her roof remain, but now they're partially covered. With every storm, the damage inside her house keeps getting worse.
But this is my life now. I've got boxes everywhere.
You can see it in the walls and ceiling and on her art. The mold keeps spreading, the cracks keep growing, and Mary keeps waiting for any sign of progress.
You kind of feel like you're the only one, and you feel like you're forgotten. And that's a terrible feeling.
But she's not the only one. For Irma alone, the state awarded more than $430 million to fix and rebuild damaged homes. Hundreds of Southwest Florida homes took on storm after storm over the years with no help from a state program that they're already approved for.
Why is it allowed to continue? Because there are people hurting, and there are a lot of people out there that are hurting.
We took her questions to the Department of Economic Opportunity, and we asked them, why has this taken so long?
I wish I could snap my fingers and make it happen instantaneously.
Deputy Secretary Benjamin Melnick says they are trying.
The focus is obviously getting people back into decent, sanitary, safe homes.
We asked why so many homes still aren't done. Melnick says it takes time to meet federal requirements and to find the right contractors. The department also says they want to be efficient with the money they received from the federal government. As the years pass on, Melnick says they are getting faster.
The further in time that the program has operated, the more effective it's grown.
The septic's not really backing up like it was.
But for Mary and more than 300 other Southwest Florida homeowners, the work still needs to be done. She worries the same thing could happen to hundreds more after this year's hurricanes.
I want better for them. If they rolled out to Ian and to Nicole, I want so much better for them. I don't ever want to see someone sit in 5 years.
You don't want them to go through what you went
No, absolutely not. It's terrible.
The DEO is asking the federal government for more money, this time for Hurricane Ian. Melnick says that process won't slow down the remaining work for Irma survivors.
The work's not done. There's a lot more to be done, and we're committed to doing it.
It's just more of the same until it actually happens.
We checked with Collier County, and Mary's house does have an approved permit for that demolition. The county issued it in July of this year, and it expires in mid-January. So far, no one has set a date to tear down her house, and until then, the state can't help her with any sort of hotel or other housing. At least that's what she told me last week.
Talk about government red tape. I mean, 5 years? It's ridiculous. So where does that leave Mary in the meantime?
Well, she's been staying in that house the entire time. So we talked with DEO today. They said they are trying to find a way to get her into some sort of alternative housing, but as of tonight, she's still there.
I cannot believe we have this program. We're all paying for it, and they're not actually using it. Amazing
where it
story.
stands.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Meet Army veteran Ron Fournier.
I was drafted when I was 22 years old, and I had a green card because I came from Canada.
His time in the military took him from coast to coast. It would be decades before he ended up here in Collier County, greeted with sunshine, beaches, and a recession that brought him back to square one.
I tried to survive on Social Security and a small retirement.
How was that for you?
Very difficult, but it's like anything else in life. You have to be able to adapt to what you have.
He eventually found help and a place to live through Wounded Warriors. More than a dozen veterans live here, those that can be a bit more independent. Because of medical needs, not every veteran qualifies.
Let's face it, I would imagine the average age in Naples and Collier County is very close to 60. And so as they get older, they're going to need places to go. And a lot of those are veterans.
There are more than 1 million veterans here in Florida, and more than 20,000 of them live in Collier County. According to the VA Predictive Analytics and Actuary Service, the numbers have gone down slightly over the years. Dan Mullins with Collier County Wounded Warriors says that's because World War II veterans have started to pass away.
It's projected to go down.
But the demand is still there for certain types of specialized care.
The demand is still there, absolutely. There will always be senior veterans. There will always be veterans in need.
When you're in the military, you're kind of, the mindset is, you can do it on your own type thing.
Navy veteran Alex Kane is a long way from becoming a senior veteran, but he recognizes the need for housing that can accommodate veterans who aren't as independent.
Some of them outlive the people in their lives that are important to them. They end up alone, or they don't know the basic services.
Right now, there are 9 state-run nursing homes for veterans to provide those services. The only one in Southwest Florida is more than an hour away in Port Charlotte.
Charlotte County is quite a ways away. I mean, so does everybody move to Charlotte County?
This is very personal to me.
Collier County Commissioner Rick LaCostro wants a similar home to be placed here, right off Golden Gate Parkway. He says part of the funding would come from the county, almost $30 million.
Well, first off, the taxpayers have done their job, because in 2018, when they voted for the 1-cent tax, part of when that was approved by an overwhelming majority, a piece of that 1-cent tax was immediately chopped for the state-funded veterans nursing home.
If the home is built, LaCostro wants mental health care services along with assisted living care for veterans who qualify inside the home.
Is there enough demand to veterans who want those kinds of services to fill those beds?
My guess is yes. I don't know for sure, but my guess is yes. But there's just a lack of help.
That lack of help means lack of space for veterans who really need this care in our state. The latest numbers from the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs show that out of all the state-funded nursing homes, none of them have a 100% occupancy rate. In fact, this one in Port Charlotte actually has the lowest number in the state at just 57% of the beds occupied by veterans.
And if they're only operating at 50%, it's got to be the fact that there's just not enough staffing to run those nursing homes.
It's difficult to find the staff.
LaCastro agrees and says part of the problem is money. The homes can't bring in more veterans until they get more staff. He told us it can be hard to bring in workers while competing with groups willing to pay more. Right now, the Port Charlotte nursing home has job listings for licensed nurses offering a $42,000 annual salary. For certified nursing assistants, $35,000.
And although I feel Collier County and even the state pays a fair wage, we don't have the flexibility that maybe a private hospital does or a private nursing home to say, listen, we're short 5 nurses, whatever we have to do in the way of bonuses or profit sharing or 401k, do it. You know, we need to bring them in. We need to keep our company, you know, fully stocked. Sometimes you don't have that when you're working at the government levels.
LaCastro says he wants the state to take the high cost of living into consideration when they try to hire staff for the nursing home.
It has to happen. It's just a case of when it happens or how it's going to happen.
As for when it'll happen,
The need exists now. It's the need for housing for these senior veterans has been going on for years. And even 3 to 5 years, the need is now.
in the meantime, veterans will continue to rely on support from community agencies and nonprofits. Local in Collier County, for the NBC2 Investigators, I'm Ashley Graham. The plan for more and upgraded parks started in 2016.
Whether it was recreational, green space, we recognized that as a growing city, we needed more parks.
It came to fruition 2 years later when Cape Coral residents voted on the Go Bonds referendum.
We'd have them all done in 3 years for $60 million, and it would be done.
It would fund 7 new parks and pay for updates to dozens of existing parks. We went around Cape Coral to check them out. There is work happening at some existing parks. And the city did break ground on new ones last year. Of that $60 million, so far the city has spent just over $9 million. They plan to spend another $17 million on approved projects. The biggest chunk of that $60 million would go to the Cape Coral Yacht Club. But now, the price tag for all of those parks is going up.
How much more than $60 million are we talking?
Well, we don't know exactly yet until we get all the permitting, but we recognize that it's probably going to be anywhere from the $10 to $15 million more than anticipated.
It's not just money.
When the referendum was initially passed, it was supposed to take about 3 to 5 years to get that work done. Right now we're in about year 4, and as you can see behind me, there has been some work done on the local parks, but the majority of what's yet to be done is still tied up in permits, and right now the city says that timing is kind of out of their hands.
Of course, we have to have the permits in place before we can start construction.
The city did hold public input meetings in 2019 about plans for the 7 neighborhood parks. Critics like Tom Shadrack argue that that process held up progress.
Let's go back and talk to the public, spend another year redesigning, rethinking what does the public really want. They've had some forums. So that took a year out of the schedule, in my view.
Do you feel that that 3-year mark was too optimistic?
I thought the 3-year timeline was probably a little aggressive, but I thought the 5-year was close to being attainable.
Mayor John Gunter says the permit issue is not the only factor.
I think some of the things that we didn't surely plan on as a pandemic, I think that really played in to this process.
Others say the work should have been done long before COVID-19 became an issue.
If they'd have finished everything in 3 years like the plan was, none of that would have been impacted. Today, now it's impacted huge.
We would have been out by 2020.
We would have been done by 21.
City leaders say they're working hard to get the parks done in time. City Council is currently deciding whether to take the Cape Coral Yacht Club out of the Go Bonds package and to use the entire $60 million on the remaining parks. When the permits are approved, they say they'll work quickly to start the remaining work.
We are moving forward. We will get these projects completed in a timely manner.
Reporting in Cape Coral for NBC2, I'm Ashley Graham.